What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike here, and today I am joined by writer and director Efosa Osaghae to discuss his new short film, Phantom Carousel, screening as part of the 2026 HollyShorts Film Festival. Blending dark comedy, satire, and speculative fiction, Phantom Carousel explores surveillance, work culture, and the increasingly blurred line between professional expectations and personal freedom. Efosa, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Mike, thank you so much for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I can't wait to talk about this film and yeah, this crazy world that I've been building. And yeah, can't wait to just talk about everything.
So the film takes a fairly ordinary job and pushes it into something almost dystopian. What was the first image or idea that sparked Phantom Carousel for you?
It's a very good question. And I have been really trying to think about like the source of that image. And I think it just came from my own anxieties as someone who works, freelance and predominantly like nearly 99% of the stuff I do is remotely. So I produce commercials day to day. And yeah, I just thought because I feel like I have a very unconventional work process in terms of like preparation, like research. Sometimes I'll be on my bike and I'll still kind of be working. So I just thought, what if someone were to, just be taking a log of me and the process of my work, not just the work I deliver, but how I'm doing it. And I thought, there's no way anyone would ever hire me again if they were to see what I do leading up to like what gets delivered. Um, and then I just, it's funny enough, as much as the role that the main character Bento plays is this kind of corporate spy slash private investigator for companies spying on their own employees. This job actually exists, not in as high concept a way that we see in the film, but in the UK, I don't know about the US. You can hire companies can hire a private investigator specifically for employee absence. So, like if someone, an employee has said they're they're sick, technically a company can hire someone to spy on that person. They cannot breach that person's home, but they can stay outside and, conduct a stakeout. They can follow within reason. This is all above board in the UK. I don't know about other countries,
Wow.
but in the UK, you can do this.
And so I guess that's my follow-up. So, your film imagines the world where productivity is monitored to an unsettling degree. Like you just talked a little bit about what they can do in the UK and what they can't do. So as you were putting this together, how did you decide where to draw the line between a satire and something that's felt uncomfortably real and believable?
Yeah, that's another great question. Well, I think satire, number one, is my favorite genre above anything. So I love the films of Ruben Östlund, Christopher Borgli, um, going back, Buñuel, like all of these like satirical films that look at society in a slightly absurdist way. That's like typically what I always lean towards. In terms of yeah, leaning towards satire or just, something a bit more realistic, but like very like almost like a very realistic depiction of what is possible. I wanted the film to feel mundane. Like we focus on certain things that like even when I was showing some people the rough cut, people are like, wow, you're really focusing on things that we would like typically you'd be told to just take out. So there's scenes of like two characters and we literally just see their internet history. And it's more than just 1 second. It's a good like maybe 10 seconds. And one, I wanted to just show like this is the minute detail that these investigators would have to go, to look at this. But then two, I wanted them to function as almost like a little Easter egg. So if you're to like watch the film back, you might see some like funny jokes and like punchlines in the actual internet URLs and some of the Google searches as
I saw a
well.
few. I was reading watching that scroll screen. I'm like, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, like I wanted it to overall feel like a very mundane film to the point of it being absurdly mundane. It's like this world I could literally step out of my house and this world would exist. And I didn't want it to go too far into being fantastical because I didn't want the audience to feel like, oh, this flat out could never happen to me. I wanted it to feel like relatively, maybe like 2% above what we feel is reality.
And as you were working with Ali Christie and developing this character of Bento, you know, he gets in this character has to get into some really awkward situations that they probably never thought about when they took this job. The character of Bento, not Alec. Alec knew he was an actor coming into
Yeah.
this. So how did you work with him, or as you were developing the script, approach this to make sure that the audience would understand these decisions he makes without maybe necessarily agreeing with them or even disliking him, because he plays a very likable character doing very unlikable things.
Yeah, so the funny thing about Alec, so I actually met him at a Rain Dance Film Festival a couple of years ago. And then as I was casting the role, I was on Spotlight, the date casting database, and I just couldn't find anyone that I thought could play Bento. Then I saw Alec's headshot and I thought, ah, I met him a couple years ago. He just has the face because again, yeah, there's not much dialogue in the film, but I needed a face that I don't know, you could feel is trustworthy, but at the same time, push comes to shove, he's willing to do things that the average person maybe wouldn't.
No.
And then on top of that, Alec himself, he's actually done, um, he hasn't like been a private investigator in this respect, but he's done some kinds of surveillance in the past. Like
Mm.
when he was much younger, when he did odd jobs, building his acting career at the same time. So it wasn't difficult for us to get Alec into that headspace because I think the predominant headspace I wanted Alec to get into with Bento is desperation. So it's like there's no other option for him other than to do what he's being asked to do, and then also he's supposedly well paid for this, which is also like the justification. So it really was just a case of yeah, he has no other options but to yeah conduct. But then also for me it's quite interesting. I wouldn't mind actually if I had nothing better to do to make £500 a day just doing this. Up until of course when he has to do what he has to do. I think that's when it's like yeah, morally that's where I think we're really crossing the line, but we needed Ben to go that far.
And the other piece with the film that I enjoyed was Giuseppe Vasapollo's score, how the music shifts, very effortlessly between these moments of light-hearted comedy and then like genuine suspense. So what were your conversations like as you worked together to find the right musical balance for the film and all those moments?
Yeah, m music was so important to this film, of course, because again, once we get out of the almost like the first segment and then we get to the house and the stakeout, there's very little dialogue. It's almost like near enough a silent film up until the last scene, really. So my conversations with Giuseppe was mainly about this is a real world, but it's a carousel as well. Like this is a very cyclical film, as in it's almost like a ride that we can't get off. Us as workers, us as freelancers, us as people who work from home, as in there's no real way to get out of this kind of like surveillance. There's no real way to kind of change necessarily the way that we work until something major happens. So we're all on this ride. So I wanted the film to feel like almost a bit like a theme park ride with the carousel theme, with the kind of lighthearted comic bits, and then also the kind of motif that would come in and out at certain times. And then the suspense was, yeah, again, to just really put the audience through the ringer when Bento is put in that position to do what he has to do. And I gave Giuseppe a ton of references, um, some very niche. There was this song by this artist called The Caretaker, and he had done a rendition of this ballroom waltz, I think from the 1920s, but it was strung out and lo-fi. So that was like a very strong reference. And I also wanted the theme not to feel of any time because we have like modern music and actual songs that characters are listening to in the film. So I wanted the theme to feel like timeless, like completely out of that. And yeah, Giuseppe definitely nailed that brief.
And I want to go back to something you talked about a little earlier, how your love for satire. So you've made several films now that blend satire, speculative fiction. What is it that you find makes that the best avenue to explore contemporary life through that lens? Like, what is it that makes it so appealing?
Yeah, yeah, another great question. Well, when I was younger, I was the biggest sci-fi guy. I was just like, I can't imagine making a film that's not sci-fi because I always felt that, you know, great sci-fi is really it's not about the future, it's about the now, but we're giving you this, you know, world that's 10, 50, 100 years in the future. And then as I got older and I just started to realize that reality as we know it is, you know, way stranger than fiction. You know, it's absurd. So satire for me is used as a vehicle to kind of keep the world somewhat real so that when the audience watches it, they can literally pick apart scenes and say, "Oh, I've been in that scenario." So I think the issue with sci-fi sometimes is even though the one scene might be about something that happens now, but it might be set on a spaceship or it might be set on, you know, Mars. Whereas satire can be literally your house, your a restaurant, a park, very mundane,
Mhm.
but it's just depicted in a way that's slightly out of reality to make you realize, oh, reality is very, very weird. So that's what I love with satire. It just gives you an opportunity to have the real and to go ever slightly above that.
And as you look back on making Phantom Carousel, what would you say is one best practice that you learned, like something you want to take forward with you as you move into future projects? And was there a learning curve or something that happened that maybe changed how you'll approach filmmaking moving forward?
Yeah, I would say with with directing, because again, I've directed a few shorts before this, but I've mainly produced like I've produced features day to day. I'm producing commercials. So I would say as a director, one of the most important things is it's the nuance between knowing when to listen and when not to listen. Because if you always listen to people who you might even say are more experienced than you, then now you're not making your film, you're making their film. But if you don't listen, then highly likely if you've hired people more experienced than you, then you might be making a bad film. So it really, and there's no easy way to learn this. I think you just have to make the film and learn afterwards. So there was many times in the process where I really stuck to my guns when people saying, no, don't do this. No, that's not going to work. This is too long. Um, and I'm so glad that I stuck to them because I honestly feel with this edit, with the final film, I would say I'm happy with like 90% of the film. And I think that's a really high percentage because, you
Yeah.
know, usually I feel like people, like directors are happy with maybe half, you know, especially with a short because of all the lack of resources and no time and whatever else. But I would say 90% of this film, I look back and I think, yeah, I'm actually really proud of this. So I think it's just next ones is just even sticking more to my guns because I think that will get me closer to being 100% happy with it.
And when audiences leave Phantom Carousel, what's one idea or feeling you hope stays with them after the credits roll?
Oh, one idea. It's a very good question. Do you know what? I feel like I would want people to just remember that in any line of work, industry, I think we should all appreciate that people have different ways of working. And I think the most important thing, in my opinion, is the job being done? Do we have to actually police how people do it if it doesn't hurt other people? Like the question people should ask is, if I'm policing how someone works, is it because I need to justify a way of work to my superiors, or is it because that way of work is actually impacting how the company works? Because I think if it's the former, then I think that's just performance, that's just theater. That's, it's not actually impacting the results and delivery. So I think yeah, I would say, I like unconventional ways of working because I think it's so fascinating to see people just, but some people might have their best ideas on in the swimming pool or at the gym or
Mhm.
whatever else, and they come back to their laptop and, as soon as they get back, they're delivering work that they couldn't have if they were just locked to a desk, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever. So yeah, I think I'd want people to just really evaluate how they work, how we work, and yeah, how how society can examine how we work as a whole.
Very well said. Lily Fosa, thank you again so much for taking the time to chat with me today. Phantom Carousel is screening as part of the 2026 HollyShorts Film Festival. For everyone watching, if you are attending HollyShorts, we will include screening information and social media information about the film and the team in the description notes below. If you enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out my website, cinephilemike.com, for more filmmaker interviews, spoiler-free reviews, and other film festival coverage. And until next time, remember, this is Cinephile Mike telling you to take a break and watch something new. If also have a wonderful day.